Ever looked at a map and wondered about those invisible lines crisscrossing our planet? They might seem like just, markings, but they secretly shape so much our climate, how people live, often holding incredible sort of hidden details. Today, we're doing a deep dive into one of the really fascinating ones, the Tropic of Capricorn. Our goal today is to really dig into what our sources reveal about this specific circle of latitude. We're going to unpack exactly what it is, explore the surprising story behind its name, and then look at its diverse and often pretty profound impacts on geography, climate, and, well, life itself across three major continents. What we'll find is how this seemingly fixed boundary is actually dynamic. It's a moving frontier shaping the struggle and triumph of life along its path. Okay, let's unpack this then. At its core, the Tropic of Capricorn. It's the circle of latitude containing the subsolar point of the December solstice, the southern solstice. What does that mouthful actually mean for us? Well, it's simply the southernmost latitude where the sun can appear directly overhead at noon. Think of it as the southern hemisphere's counterpart to the Tropic of Cancer up north. Right now, its precise latitude is just under 23.5 degrees south of the equator, specifically about 23.43 degrees. And while that astronomical precision is great for pinpointing it, for our purposes, thinking roughly 23.5 degrees south works fine, gives you a good mental picture.
What's really fascinating here, though, is that this line isn't fixed at all. Its position is constantly changing. It's because of slight continuous wobble in the Earth's longitudinal alignment relative to its orbit around the sun. Yeah, to elaborate a bit, the Earth's axial tilt, which is currently around 23.4 degrees, it isn't constant. It varies over this massive 41,000-year cycle, oscillating between about 22.1 and 24.5 degrees. And this sort of subtle astronomical dance directly impacts where the Tropic of Capricorn actually sits.
Right, and a surprising detail the source points out is that this movement isn't just theoretical, it's remarkably quantifiable. This line is actually drifting northward. It's an almost imperceptible astronomical shift, but it translates to about 15 meters every single year. Think about that 15 meters. Kind of makes you think, doesn't it? If you built a monument right on the tropic today, 100 years from now, it'd be 1.5 kilometers north of the line. The source material gives some concrete examples. It was exactly 23 degrees, 27 minutes south back in 1917, and it's projected to hit 23 degrees, 26 minutes south by 2045. It's just a subtle reminder of how dynamic our planet really is.
And this constant movement actually ties into the line's name, too. When this latitude was first named, way back when, the sun was in the constellation Capricornus at the December solstice. That's the day the sun reaches its southernmost point, appearing directly overhead at this latitude. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this very slow, continuous wobble in Earth's axis over thousands of years, the sun actually appears in the constellation Sagittarius at the December solstice today.
Huh. So the name's a bit of an historical artifact then.
Exactly.
And another fascinating consequence of this wobble. The distance between the Arctic Circle and the Tropic of Capricorn stays essentially constant. They move together, sort of in tandem, keeping that global spacing, which is pretty neat, actually.
Yeah, it is.
So beyond its definition, the Tropic of Capricorn acts as a major geographical divider. South of it lies the southern temperate zone, while north of it, you have the tropics. It's a literal line on the map for climate zones.
Makes sense.
And these precise astronomical shifts also mean day length changes quite dramatically along this line throughout the year. During the June solstice winter of the southern hemisphere, you get about 10 hours and 41 minutes of daylight. But fast forward to the December solstice, the southern hemisphere's summer, and you get a much longer day, around 13 hours and 35 minutes.
Quite a difference.
Yeah. And for anyone curious, the total length of the Tropic of Capricorn at its current latitude is pretty staggering, 36,788 kilometers. That's about 22,859 miles.
But okay, beyond these interesting numbers and the celestial mechanics, the crucial question is, what does this all mean for the real world? This line isn't just marking daylight shifts. It profoundly impacts the environments, the ecosystems, and the lives of people along its path.
Right. So let's set the stage by exploring the three major continents it crosses. Each has really unique geographical and environmental characteristics, and we can see how life has adapted. Let's start with Africa. For most of this belt across Africa, there's generally reliable seasonal rainfall, at least a minimum. This allows for farming, although, the yields sometimes struggle compared to places like the Mississippi Basin, even with similar fertilizers.
Yeah, that makes sense. But what's been particularly successful there is damming rivers, especially those rivers flowing from areas with relief precipitation, mountains forcing rain, or from the edge of the Great Rift Valley, like the Zambezi River. When you combine that water management with good alluvial or enriched soil, it actually enables substantial grain farming in certain areas. It's a real testament to adapting to local conditions.
And pasture farming is also widespread across this big region. Now, what really struck me from the source material here is the story of Alan Savory. He's a Zimbabwean-born biologist. Back in the 1960s, he came up with this counterintuitive approach called holistic management. His idea was basically to increase livestock numbers on grasslands, mimicking natural herds, instead of fencing them off, as a way to prevent desertification.
It sounds backwards, right?
It does sound counterintuitive, yeah.
From your reading, is there much debate around this?
Yeah. Or is it widely accepted now?
Oh, that's a great question. It's definitely sparked a lot of discussion. While Savory's holistic management has certainly seen successes and it's received awards, he even gave a keynote at the UNCCD's Land Day in 2018 and did that widely shared TED Talk. It's also faced criticism. Some scientific studies have found mixed results or, they lacked the rigorous controls needed for really broad scientific endorsement. But its core ideas, things like integrated planning and mimicking natural grazing, they are quite influential in regenerative agriculture circles. It definitely shows how creative solutions are needed in these climate zones, even if they're still debated.
That's fascinating. Okay, so some African countries the tropic passes through. Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, and also Madagascar. Right? Now let's contrast that with Australia. The situation along the tropic there is quite different. The areas around the tropic in Australia have some of the world's most variable rainfall. That's a really stark difference from much of that African belt we just talked about.
Absolutely. And this extreme variability has forced plants, things like flowering shrubs, eucalyptus, many grasses to adapt in pretty remarkable ways. They've developed incredibly deep roots and very little transpiration to conserve every drop of water.
Yeah.
While some wetter spots support pasture, arable farming naturally struggles. It often specializes in things like dry fruits, nuts, crops needing only modest water. Other types of farming are possible, but really only with reliable irrigation and ideally enriched soils, like for wheat. It just highlights the incredible resilience needed there.
Interestingly, Australia's Great Dividing Range, that multi-bridge mountain range, plays a huge role. It brings enough relief precipitation rain from air forced upwards to make hundreds of kilometers on either side cultivable. And its rivers are widely dammed to store water, benefiting areas like New South Wales and Queensland.
Yeah, topography is key. And another huge factor for Australia, especially this region, is El Niño. Its adverse phases, they cause the shift in atmospheric circulation, leading to reduced rainfall over Indonesia and Australia. But at the same time, it increases rainfall and tropical cyclone formation over the tropical Pacific. It also messes with the trade winds along the equator, weakening them or even reversing their direction. It's a really powerful example of how global patterns dictate local weather.
Wow. And if you venture further west in Australia away from the coast and the ranges, you hit this dramatically arid landscape. It's described as a white, red, and yellow expanse stretching for thousands of kilometers. Really evocative. This rain shadow area has the normally arid cattle lands of the Channel Country.
Yeah.
It has these intermittently flowing rivers, the Georgina, Cooper Creek, the Diamantina. Most years, their water just evaporates or soaks into the ground. But sometimes, if there's enough rain upstream, they flood all the way into lake air. You get the white salt pans of Kadithanda Lake Air National Park and the red sands of the Gibson Desert in this really stark, beautiful, but incredibly challenging region.
A very different picture from Africa.
Totally different. Okay, moving across the Pacific to South America. Here we find a unique geological context. While some parts of the continent have ancient soils on stable bedrock, similar to Australia and southern Africa, South America, along the tropic, also features the geologically young and still evolving Andes Mountains. That changes things.
It really does. And its position, being on the western side of those subtropical anticyclones, those big high-pressure zones, means the region gets warm, humid air, mainly from the Atlantic Ocean. That's a really key difference shaping the environment, particularly east of the Andes.
And the result, you get these incredibly productive agricultural regions in Brazil, right near the tropic. They produce huge quantities of crops like sugarcane. Though the source notes the natural rainforest vegetation there has been almost entirely cleared for this agriculture.
A common story.
Yeah. And then further south, in Argentina, you hit the temperate grasslands, the Pampas region. These are just as influential, producing massive amounts of wheat, soybeans, maize, and beef. It makes Argentina one of the world's largest agricultural exporters, kind of like the prairies in Canada, just enormous agricultural output.
Which then raises the important question, what happens west of the Andes? because the picture changes dramatically again. The Andes create a powerful rain shadow effect, blocking all that Atlantic moisture, and this, combined with the cold Humboldt current flowing up the coast, creates the extremely arid Atacama Desert. It's genuinely one of the driest places on Earth. So dry, in fact, that there are no glaciers between Volcan Sajama way up at 18 degrees south and Cerro Tres Cruces down at 27 degrees south.
Wow, no glaciers for that entire stretch.
None. Vegetation there is almost non-existent. It's such a stark contrast to the eastern slopes of the Andes, where there's enough rain for rain-fed agriculture. It perfectly shows how mountains and ocean currents can just completely reshape a climate zone.
Absolutely, incredible contrast. Okay, let's quickly trace its path around the globe. Which countries does the Tropic of Capricorn actually pass through? There are 10 of them. Starting at the prime meridian, heading east. Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, Madagascar, then across the Indian Ocean. Australia, then the Pacific, Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, and finally Brazil, before hitting the Atlantic again. It also crosses significant stretches of ocean, the Atlantic, Indian, particularly the Mozambique Channel, and the Pacific, including Australia's Coral Sea.
And it's quite a contrast when you look at the hemispheres in terms of landmass distribution relative to the tropics. While, get this, 73 countries are located wholly north of the Tropic of Cancer. Only 4 countries lie entirely south of the Tropic of Capricorn. Just 4.
Only 4. Okay, who are they?
Eswatini, Lesotho, New Zealand.
Right, but you mentioned New Zealand's territories, like the Cook Islands are actually north of it, yeah.
That's correct, yes. The main islands are south, but not all its territories. And the 4th country is Uruguay.
Eswatini, Lesotho, New Zealand, Uruguay. Interesting. So as we've explored this journey, what stands out to you, the listener, thinking about the vast differences, but also maybe some common threads along this single invisible line? So wrapping up this deep dive, it feels pretty clear the Tropic of Capricorn is way more than just a line on a map, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
It's a dynamic, constantly moving boundary, and it profoundly influences climate, ecosystems, human societies, but across 3 incredibly diverse continents. What's really remarkable, seeing it across Africa, Australia, South America, isn't just how the line influences things, but the sheer spectrum of ingenious adaptations both in nature and by humans that emerge to, well, thrive within its dynamic embrace. It really underscores how resilient life, and maybe especially human civilization, can be when faced with these persistent environmental pressures.
Yeah, it really does. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, understanding these subtle, continuous movements like Earth's axial tilt changing, it really puts into perspective how things we think of as fixed geographical elements are actually in constant, even a very slow motion. It's such a powerful reminder that our planet is this living, evolving system, and that life itself is just this constant process of adaptation. It kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it, what other grand, slow shifts are happening right now, maybe ones we aren't even fully aware of yet, that are shaping the world for generations to come.